Meeting will come to order, please. The notice requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act for this meeting have been satisfied. Would you take a second, turn off all electronic equipment, and we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lisa, call the roll, please.
Mayor Becker?
Here.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Here.
Commissioner Blumberg?
I am here.
The items for discussion today are best practices at the beginning. Lisa?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. As you know, for the last several years, the state has required us to prepare this best practices questionnaire. Excuse me one second. This year, there were 84 questions. 31 of the questions were new and they were unscored, so they did not count against us in any way. We needed a score of 30 or higher to receive 100% of our state funding, which is, state funding we receive is the energy receipts tax, which is approximately like $760,000 that we receive. We scored a 43.5, so we will be receiving 100% of the funding. Everything that was required to be done in the state website, this FAST system, has been done. I certified, and Rich and Johanna have also certified, and everything was submitted that way. So part of the requirement is that we discuss it at a public meeting. I sent each of you a copy of the responses. If you have any questions on any of the items, you know, that you would like to discuss, we can do so now.
Maury?
No, job
Jack?
well done.
Good job,
Okay.
Lisa.
All right, good. Thank you.
As
Then,
usual.
thank you. That's all I have for that. Thank you. That was easy.
Rich, you want to discuss water and sewer?
Moving right along, Mayor. Yeah, I think this is important. As you know, there's an ordinance at the next meeting to be introduced, which we do every 3 or 4 years, and that is analyze the rate structure of our private utility. No tax dollars go into supporting the water and sewer utility. I just want to make a couple of observations. Earlier this year, we completed a water system asset management plan. It was done by Remington and Vernick. It is a very comprehensive look at our utility and a very helpful look from a capital standpoint. There's nothing more important to me in local government, with some deference to police and fire, than providing clean water to people every day. People assume they're going to have drinkable water. We've seen in our country there's places where, right in our own country, we don't have drinkable water. I've had problems with it. We have 5 groundwater wells in the water system. We get all of our water from an 800-foot sand aquifer. We have the capacity to pump over 5 million gallons a day. There are 2 1-million-gallon storage tanks that we have in town, one of which is being repainted right now. The contract for that is in excess, if I recall, of $600,000 just to paint the outside of that tank. There are a lot of capital costs associated with providing clean water and sewer services. This city has done an excellent job, in my opinion, over the last 40 or 50 years taking care of our utility system. However, close to 50% of the distribution system for our water dates to the 1920s. And a significant number of hydrants are of a similar age. The water meters are in need of replacing, and it's been identified in our asset plan. We're going to be looking into getting all new water meters over the next couple of years, and they will be electronic meters. It's my prediction that when that's all accomplished, it will make it more cost effective to bill on a quarterly basis or half a year or quarterly basis other than on an annual basis, which will serve the public we're not having to come up with money just once a year. It'll be done evenly spread and better able to be budgeted. The management plan calls for replacing the 4-inch cast iron water distribution pipes. They date back to the 1920s, and about a quarter of our pipe system are still the 4-inch cast iron pipes. It's going to be necessary to appropriate in excess of $1 million a year just to upgrade our system, never mind doing the usual maintenance items of redoing wells and painting the water tanks like we've done consistently over the last number of years. All this leads to a water rate increase that we're proposing today. We haven't done one since 2016. Our water rates now, and will continue to be even after the rate increase, to be the lowest of any town in the area. We've been able to keep our utility rates extremely low over the years, and we can continue to do it, but we're gonna have to continue to spend money on our utility system. We're proposing an annual water rate of $230. It's proposed for 120,000 gallons. 120,000 gallons is more than enough to accommodate the vast majority of families in Margate or any place in the country on an annual basis. On an annual basis, people use approximately 80 gallons a day per person in your house. If you multiply 250 gallons, which would be the average of a house of a little over 3 people, for 365 days, it only comes out to about 95,000 gallons a year. We allow 120,000 gallons. We allow 25% over. We have previously allowed 130,000 gallons, but there's no reason for the very few high users to be subsidizing the rest of the people in Margate. There's about 5,500 users in Margate, that individual connections, and perhaps 500 or 600 at the most we anticipate would go over the 120,000. We already have 500 going over 130,000, but we also have 5,000 that don't. And so the proposal is $230 for 120,000 gallons a year. The cost of for water in the 8 surrounding towns rates goes from a low in Longport of $260 now for 100,000 gallons. We're giving you 120,000 for $230, $30 less. That's the low. The high goes. Others are Longport is 311, and Ventnor's 353 in Brigantine, and 311 in Ventnor. The proposal also includes a rate increase for sewer service to $450 annually for a combined rate of $680, which is the same as Longport currently charges and less than all of the other towns. So even with the rate increase, we'll still be less. I think it's responsible on all of our parts to consider this favorably, and I can support it. I believe you can support it. I know Frank supports it. This recommendation comes from Frank, Lisa, Tara, Pat, and Jim, and myself. We've all met over the last month, and it was based on a study that was originally done a few months ago by Leon Costello. I have this study here on, which is like a 5-year projection on budgets for the water and sewer utility. So it's well supported. In addition to that, we've redone the entire water ordinance, calling it now a water and sewer ordinance, because it did also include other rates. So there are other costs involved for new construction. And we haven't changed our sewer connection fee in 25 years. So we had recommendations as far back as 2016 to change rates, which we never did. But we've included those in this ordinance. So we recommend your approval. It'll be considered at the 5 o'clock meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Our third item is the Margate Fishing Pier. Who would like to lead that discussion?
I can start off with that, Mayor. We've had a number of meetings and discussions with officers of the Margate Fishing Pier. We do have a final draft here now. It's been reviewed. We've had input from our insurance people, Dave Miller. Lisa was very helpful on this. Of course, Mr. Deeney. John Amadeo has been, the commissioner's been the point man on this one with the fishing pier people. And the idea is, so everybody can understand, is for public access to a portion of the pier, accessible from the beach, so that people can walk out on the pier, walk out in that L shape where you can look out into the ocean. It's actually pretty nice. I know I do it on the Ventnor Pier where it's open to the public. And so basically what this is a three-way arrangement. The DEP funding money from the state to compensate the pier so the pier can extend outward because of the dune project. The pier, for the most part, is not really a fishing pier because they don't have any water, so they're going to be building out further. Now, part of this will be an obligation of the city to create portable stairs that we can remove during the winter. Quite frankly, we'd like to try to avoid a DEP CAFR permit if we can, and I understand if it's movable that we might be able to avoid that expense. We had some issues with the club regarding security gates, but I mean, we've pointed out to them, geez, you can get on the pier pretty easy from the sand dune, just step up onto it. So I think we have those issues worked out. I have the agreement here. I don't have a meets and bounds description, which I would prefer, but I do have the aerial picture, and they roughed out this is what the pier gave me. I have Mr. Pluto has signed it as treasurer. I've asked him to give me authorization, a resolution, instead of having the president, then will give me something from your corporate, nonprofit corporate that says you can sign for the pier and bind the pier. He understood. He's a little tough at times, John, but I think that got through to him. But I know, look, they're volunteers, these fellows who are working on this. They're trying to get this done. And so there is a resolution tonight which would allow us to enter into this agreement. I recommend the agreement. I think I'm satisfied. Commissioner Amadei, do you want to say a few things too on it?
Well, with the public being here, so they have a better understanding, the DEP approached both the Margate Pier Association and the City of Margate as a caveat for the construction of an additional 125 foot of structure on the end of their pier, which will remain private for the members of the fishing pier themselves. And the clubhouse area will remain private for the fishing pier members themselves also. And a roughly 9 foot by 300 foot stretch to the inner tee is what they call it now, because it is basically high and dry on top of sand, would be accessible for the public. And the DEP has been very cooperative, and their efforts always are to create open space and public access to the beauties and the natural resources that we have in the state of New Jersey. So this is a partnership between the DEP, the Margate Pier, and the City of Margate, and hopefully it's successful for the enjoyment of our residents. There were some issues that have been ironed out. The DEP is going to help us through some of those issues. And with that said, the pier people have agreed that what they wanted, the gate locked every night and opened up every morning. It's not going to have a lock on it. It's going to have a gate, and we're hoping that people will adhere to the sign that's going to be posted. From sunset to sunrise, there will be no access to the pier, basically for the safety of the people, because there's no lights. There will be trash containers and recycle containers, and hopefully in the future we can have a bench program and put some benches up there. So with that said, Scott, I appreciate the work you did on it, and I hope that we can vote on it tonight.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Scott. We'll now go to department head reports. And
Mike, if I may, excuse me.
Sure.
One question. There is no
financial responsibility for us in this, correct?
When you say financial,
Like,
no.
so we're not paying anybody anything for this asset,
We're not renting it.
No.
right? So it's more or less
We
free.
have some, more or less.
More
We have
or
some
less.
maintenance responsibilities, because the public's gonna be there. We gotta empty the trash. We
Okay.
have to put the stairs up. And if there's some, we don't have capital costs, but there are some maintenance costs. If some boards get broken or the nails come out, we have to go up.
General stuff.
But
Well,
maintenance.
stairway, we got the stairway, and we are gonna help with the gate, but
Okay,
pretty minimal,
good.
but there is some, I can't say zero.
No, good,
That's
thank
good.
you.
Good question. Okay, department head reports. Chief Adams, why don't you start?
Thank you, Mayor. Just real quick, I meant to say something when we were talking about the water tower, but the fire department's been proactive getting out there to check the area in case we have any type of rescue situation, and that we actually contacted the Atlantic City Fire Department because they have a high-angle rescue team, and their personnel have come down and kind of checked the area as well. So if we have something, we are prepared, and all the officers know what to do in the event that an emergency does occur. One additional thing we did was we reached out to Summers Point Fire Department, who has an aerial platform truck, which nobody else in our immediate area has. In case we need a platform, will get us 100 feet up as well versus a straight ladder. So we're kind of proactive on that and trying to get prepared in the event that something happens and hope that nothing does. Other than that, we're continue to be very busy in the fire department. We're preparing for the winter season with our vehicles, et cetera. And if anybody needs smoke detectors or any fire prevention materials or anything, please contact the fire department. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Lisa?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just a few things that I've been working on, just to get you up to speed. Processing all COBRA notifications to employees, mostly we have several employees whose dependents are aging out of our health insurance, so we're required to send them notices. Let's see, still working on updating our 2020 salaries for the budget and trying to start to prepare some budget items for 2020, but still trying my hardest to work on 2019 issues. I've been reviewing all open purchase orders, trying to close out what could be closed out to free up some of our appropriations, and also if there's any outstanding payments that need to be made to get them paid on time. Next week, hopefully I will be reviewing some of our existing capital ordinances for possible cancellations, which we will be able to put those funds back into surplus, but we've been doing a pretty good job of keeping up on that. So I'm hoping we should be able to cancel at least a few $100,000, which will help us going forward. I'm also still in the process of entering audit adjustments, audit balances, and budget detail in the FAST system. They also have to be input into this new FAST system, so it rolls over for next year. So it's a very tedious and lengthy process, but hopefully I'll get that done soon. As you know, we had our health fair on the 22nd. We had a very good turnout this year, and we actually had police presence this year, which I was very happy to see. Our participation was up from those that had signed in. I think some people come and don't always remember to sign in, but I think we had about 25 more participants over the 3 municipalities than last year, which was good. Unfortunately, I had scheduled 10 months ago to have the mammography van from AMI there, and they canceled at 4 o'clock the afternoon before the event. So it was a little disappointing, but they had maintenance issues. So maybe next year they'll be able to attend. Our raffle proceeds for the items, we raised $385, which I'm going to be donating to an ALS organization. So we actually managed to raise about $80 more than last year. It's not much, but it's something. It's a way to give back to our community and those in need. Let me see. I'm also reviewing all the employee contracts for contractual obligations that we have to pay out that are coming up. There's several over the next few weeks that have to be made. I had mentioned at our last meeting that we we were notified of our GIF dividend. It's $122,812. And I was going to recommend to you whether or not we take it as a check, a credit, or put it in a loss funding reserve fund. And my recommendation, I've decided that we apply it as a credit against our assessment for next year. Met the GIF Finance Committee, which I'm a member of, met last week, and we reviewed and pretty much finalized the GIF budget for 2020. Overall, the GIF and MEL budget combined is up just over 0.52%. Margate's allocation is up just over 2.5%, which equates to about $21,000. So my plan is to fund the full amount of our assessment and apply this dividend to that next year. It's going to allow us a cushion because, as you know, we're in the retrospective program for this year where we could potentially have a liability of $55,000 if our claims exceed, I think it's $403,000 for this year. As of September 30th, we're in good shape. Our loss ratio is at 15% for this year, but we have to see how they trend, and at the end of March 31st, we will be giving reports on that to see where we are. So if we continue to do well, we won't be on the hook for that additional obligation. So let's see what else I have for you. Oh, okay. So now we also included in our GIF assessment is cyber liability protection. I spoke to Fred earlier, and we did take several steps in order to comply, but it came to my attention that we also need to adopt a policy on cybersecurity. So I received all the documents today, so I'm going to consult with Fred and get that prepared, and I will send it to Rich so that we can have it authorized on a future meeting so that we are able to have the lowest deductible possible. I think it would be a $10,000 deductible on cyber coverage. Just want to remind everyone, I know Fred sends out emails, but again, at the GIF retreat, there was an excellent session on cybersecurity, and whenever I think I can't hear anything different about it, they always bring up something else. But they said the 5 biggest, cyber hits in the state were all governmental entities, and they lost a lot of money. So it's very important, and please remind department heads, remind your staff continually, if you do not recognize an email, just do not open it, question it, because, however, they just get smarter and smarter. So it's really important that we stay on top of that. That's all I have. I think that's enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Chief?
Mayor, Commissioners, as we spoke at the earlier meeting, we're in the process of a public information campaign regarding the new traffic patterns that are in town right now. There will be a learning curve for a lot of the drivers, but we are on a daily basis updating everything that has changed. It's a really good vehicle that we have. All the updates are very current between the police department and the city's website. We're putting out a lot of information about the ongoing changes in traffic. Tomorrow, in coordination with the rec department, for the first time, we're going to do a cyber crime for our senior citizens, just so they know with the ongoing internet hoaxes, phone hoaxes, because as I'm sure everybody in this room has gotten something from their cell phone or their grandson's son is
I got one today,
IRS.
Social Security.
Social Security.
The
So
hoax.
she's gonna, that your social security number is locked. Detective Borelli is gonna do a presentation tomorrow at 9:30 at the Senior Citizen Pavilion, just to keep everybody up to date with the latest attempts at getting your personal information, because it's happening to everybody. Nobody's immune to it. Also, on a side note, that for the first time, the police department is partnering with with Atlantic Care and the Treasure of the Moment Fund, participating in No Shave November. So you'll see officers look a little bit different for the month of November, myself included. For the first time in 25 years, I haven't been clean shaven. And I got to tell you, the people who can do it, my hat's off to you, because I'm itching. So if I get through the month, it'll be a miracle. Probably by the next meeting, I'll be clean shaven again. But other than that, we've had a very good response from our business community in the partnership that we have with Atlantic Care. So it's been a good fundraiser so far.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Andrew?
We wrapped up our fall soccer season this last week. As I stated in one of the previous meetings, we had over 200 children participate. So we're beginning to get our basketball season started between recreation and travel teams. We have registrations and signups going on. Our men's league continues to go on for basketball. We have our after school classes going. Right now we have gymnastics, we have a STEM program, a cooking program, art program, fitness program, all that have gone on in the last 4 to 6 weeks. The pavilion continues, the senior pavilion continues to be busy. This past Monday, we had our Veterans Day lunch where we bring the students from Ross. Some of the students come down and they help serve food and they sing songs for the veterans that are there, and all the veterans stand up and talk about their service. Pretty great day. It's one of my favorite days down at the pavilion throughout the year. On the agenda tonight for authorization at the next meeting is our playground project, our Granville Avenue playground project. It's broken into 2 parts. The one part is the equipment and installation, and the other is the rubber surfacing. So as discussed at our last meeting, and I showed you the pictures, that project right now, they said about 4 to 6 weeks to get the equipment, and then at that point, they can start installation. They won't pour the rubber surfacing in the winter, so what they'll give us is, it's like a rubber mulch. They'll give us a 6-inch, which is legal for kids to still go on with this 6-inch of rubber mulch. So they'll lay that down after Public Works preps the area for us. They'll lay that down, we'll be able to get the equipment in and open the playground, and then once we get to where the weather is better in the spring, they'll pour the rubber surfacing for us, as long as that's all authorized tonight. And then we'll move on to our next playground project at Decatur Avenue.
Thank you, Andrew. Good job. Rich?
One thing, Andrew, we also have a Friday night program that you're doing, right?
We do, yeah. We have our Friday night Fantastic Friday program, which we didn't do last year. We brought back this year. We're going to bring it. We had one in October, and we're going to do another one November 15th. Parents can drop their kids off at Ross School between the ages of kindergarten and 4th grade, and we basically babysit them for 2 hours. They do arts and crafts. We give them pizza. They can play around in the gym. Parents go out, grab something to eat, come pick them up a couple hours later. We had 55 kids at our last one in October.
Just for the public, it's a great program and the kids love it. And it really is more than, I know you're joking, it really is more than babysitting. I heard, great things about the first one that you did, so thank you for that.
We did pumpkin painting at that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Rich? Do you have anything?
Just one thing, but before I do, picking up on Andrew, his programming is just terrific. It's just getting better and better for seniors and for young people and for everybody in between. I've been speaking with the library. We haven't gotten the library people together with Andrew yet, but one of my goals is to get Andrew and Jim and Charles from the library together because we're going to do some more partnering next year. I've spoken briefly to Andrew about it for some of the music programs that I know that the commissioners have been interested in. But we're partnering directly now with the library for a New Year's Eve program with the Pops Orchestra, Cape May County Orchestra. And so we're looking forward to that program. We're putting a budget together with the library to be able to partner for musical programs all through the year next year with different venues, whether it be a patina facility, whether it be a continuation of what happened at the Lucy site. We had a program there at the Lucy site, or they did this year. And I think it's going to improve, and we're looking for actually ideas from the commissioners too of the type of musical program that you think the community would like.
Rock and roll.
Rock and roll, okay. So that's my recreation. The other thing I just wanted to mention for us to think about in the context of this whole looking at the water and sewer utility, it became clearer to me, that there's a number of places in Margate that when they have conversions to condominiums, where there's separate owners of more than one unit, there are places with single water meters, single water distribution systems. And I'd like to figure out a way, if we can, to get everybody to have their own meter and their own distribution system going forward when we see these conversions. Because quite frankly, we're then dependent on individual arrangements between parties who have these common fixtures to decide how the building is supposed to be assessed. And while we haven't had any serious problems that I'm aware of in the past, I think there's a potential for that going forward with leaks or excess water or one party not wanting to pay, and we're providing services. Other utilities require separate meters, and I think we should think about how we can do that over time.
Why don't you think about that and get it to us, Rich?
Well, I'd like to think about it with some help from them. That's why I'm bringing it up from our legal team and from others.
Thinking about it.
Very difficult in these high rises, because you have to go through there and plumb and get a meter on every unit, and that's a lot of money. But, let's see, maybe technology has changed, maybe there's a way of doing that.
What's this thing?
Maybe they post a bond for us. I mean, I don't know.
We'll work on that.
Thanks.
Thank you. Ed, are you talked down from the previous
One
meeting?
one item I'll touch on from my report of the previous meeting is on the agenda today is for the award of the Amherst Avenue Bulkhead Project. As Rich stated at the previous meeting, a major milestone for us here at the city. Great news that we're moving forward on that project. The bids came in on budget. Will be a little period of time before the materials come in and you see the heavy-duty work start down there. But that project is on schedule to be completed before Memorial Day next year. So good news for the city. That's all.
Thank you, Ed. Roger?
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. As I stated at the Capitol meeting, on tonight's agenda, I'm seeking approval to authorize for bids, to receive bids for 3 annual contracts for landscape, janitorial, and sewer line cleaning and televising. And also on the agenda is we're seeking approval to authorize a bid to replace the police department roof and the facade, and also to provide engineering work at the municipal building, police department, and also for the roof and facade. So other than that, next planning board meeting is not until December 12th because of the holiday schedule. So other than that, everything is moving along smoothly.
Thank you, Roger. Jim?
Thank you, Mayor. We had 18 demos in October, which was an all-time high. I don't think we've ever had that many. We've been conscientiously keeping an eye on the job sites and cleanliness. The other issue is we've been getting a lot of complaints about pile driving. If you feel your house shaking, just go to the contractor who's on site, notify them that you might have incurred any damages, and this way they could make note of that. We would request that you do that as soon as you feel that you had any activity on your house to protect you and your property, and make sure that you write down the information of the contractor who is working there and the pile driving that's doing the work. We had a meeting with the OEM today about our emergency alert system. All went well. We're looking forward to that potentially getting forward next year. I don't know if anybody saw in the paper, but Airbnb recently updated its policy with registering of their houses. That's going to motivate that company to have a better oversight in what they're doing with the properties out there that have been becoming a problem. There was legislation up in New Jersey about Airbnbs. I don't know where that went. If anybody has any idea what happened with that, just let me know. That's all I have.
Thank you, Jim. Frank?
On November 16th, we're having another paper shredding day in the Public Works yard. It goes from 9 to noon. Longport's going to partner with us, so we expect a few more people this year. We're down working on the deck at Huntington and the beach. It's getting new railings, and we're redoing the flower pots and planters and taking care of the decking. Down on Amherst Avenue, where they did the construction on the new bulkhead that was put in, the Tyflex valves were taken off. I believe somebody came to the last meeting and was mentioning it. We went down the next day, we put the Tyflex valves back on, they're working perfectly fine, and everything's back to normal. And right now, we're in the process of covering the fountains on the parkway. They're going to get the shrink wrap put on them again this year to keep the trees from dropping leaves on them and staining the ponds. That's all I have.
Thank you, Frank. Scott?
Couple things I want to go over. I know you've probably seen the numerous emails back and forth on a drainage problem on a resident. I'm not going to say his name, but I have responded on behalf of the city. Roger had previously issued a report. It's my position on behalf of the city that city is not responsible to fix a pre-existing condition. Now, the fellow did call me up today. In fact, as Commissioner Amateo came in, as he got me on the phone, I spent about half an hour on the phone with him. But really, I'm taking the position on behalf of the city that we can't fix these problems. That's between neighbors. Somebody built a new house, he claims there's more of a drainage issue, yet there's an old drainage grate in the center in their driveway, which means to me there was always a drainage problem there. And I'm sure we'll have more discussions and emails from this gentleman, but we're taking a position that it's not the city's issue to deal with. And it really, I know maybe we'll have more input on this, but that's what I want to say publicly to you, make sure we're on the same page. Another issue, we have one fella, and Rich, I think, alluded to it, related, where combined condo units, but they haven't done it by master deed, and so they want to cut back their water and sewer bill. Turns out we have, what, over a dozen of these, maybe? And just by coincidence, I had a real estate deal in Atlantic City, a high-rise, where the bank refused to lend it Monday on combined because they haven't amended their master deed. Their city records, everything say it's 2 units. What's the relevance? Well, I've taken the position on behalf of the city that as long as you have 2 recognized tax units, you get a set tax bill, separate off, then you get 2 bills. Now, if you combine them, and there is a process to combine them where you can merge them, you go through that process, then you would certainly be entitled to have 1 water and sewer bill rather than 2. I'm sure you'll see correspondence on that, or maybe you've seen emails. And if you want to talk to me about it further, but right now that's the position we've taken, okay? The third thing was about the authorization of the public access easement agreement with the Margate Fishing Pier. You have that on you tonight. There is basically no cost to the city of Margate. We do have to put a stairway in. We may have to maintain trash if the public leaves trash, or some of the decking we've committed to if that should get worn out where the public is, but basically no cost for us. I know I read some place where they thought the city was paying this money. No, we are not. It's compensation to the pier because the dune project has made the pier not so much a fishing pier because they don't have any water. So they're going to be allowed to extend their pier out. And we, the city, on behalf of the public, and I through the efforts of the Commissioner Amadeo, I know you were really involved with this one, John, is some public access so people have that enjoyment of being able to walk out, enjoy that L-shaped area, which I'm excited about. I think it's going to be a really nice asset for the city. That's it. That's all I have.
Thank you, Scott. Maury?
I just have one thing, one thank you, and that'll go out to Lisa for the great job that she did once again with the health fair. And it was, I was lucky enough to be able to attend, and it was very well attended, and there were it was great to see. We had a lot of vendors there that do business with the city that were able to provide information to our employees. Very, very well run, very well organized. Personally, I, for the second year, got a flu shot, and I did not get the flu yet. So thank you very much for that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Maury. John?
Mayor, I am good.
As I am. One thing for the public, we have committed to solving the flooding, down in this end of town. And it starts now. There's things on the next agenda, the approval of the bulkhead, the middle of the bulkhead. And I think with time and a little bit of money, or time and a lot of money, we'll be able to really reduce the flooding there. At this point, we will open for public comment. You have 3 minutes to speak. You can speak on any subject that was discussed here at this meeting. Is there any public comment?
Sewell, 22 West Drive. Quick question to, concerning, well, a comment
Okay.
on the bench program. I hate to be presumptuous, but I assume that these are going to be benches that people will pay for to dedicate, and it will be no cost to the taxpayer.
That is correct.
Thank you.
That's it.
Is there any other public comment? Please come forward to the microphone, your name and address, please.
Ava Lubert, Claremont Avenue. Born and raised here, lived on Gladstone Avenue. My mother still lives on Gladstone Avenue. I have a comment, question, maybe you can answer some things for me. So those new lovely stop signs with the no left that you come, when you come around Gladstone to Colmar, to come back out to Amherst. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Would you like a picture? I took a picture. Wait. When you,
Speak in the microphone.
okay, when you come around, you go down Gladstone. You know, they put the medians, these two little medians. You come around to go back out to Amherst Avenue. When you get,
To Huntington.
no, I'm not talking about Huntington. I'm talking about, can I get my camera and show you the picture so you can understand what I'm talking about?
Well, our engineer's here, he has a
Okay.
blueprint.
Oh, did I may have spoken to you on the phone. I don't know. When you come to the first little median
On Colmar Circle.
on Colmar Circle, okay, there's a stop sign. It says no left turn. Okay, because there's a space between the little median and another median. 3 or 4 feet after that stop sign is another stop sign. So if someone comes to that first stop sign that says no left turn, you're thinking, oh, I can't turn left on Amherst Avenue. It is not clear. And my mother, who still lives on Gladstone Avenue, who has a lot of aides and people that aren't familiar with the neighborhood, are confused. The medians at night, there's no lighting there. It's dim. You can, you know, you need to paint the curbs or put some kind of reflectors. There's 9.
Agreed. I agree with
Okay.
you. Okay.
There's 9 access for the disabled or strollers or whatever in that little section, 9 of them.
That's federal law. ADA compliance.
Okay, which I totally appreciate.
Okay.
Okay, but I think that they could have maybe put the ramps in, not put the dividers in, put the designated, you know, on the blacktop crosswalks. The other thing that I have to comment about is, so when you're coming off of Jerome, let's say to the school, there's the 2 stop signs, okay? What about for the school safety from Essex Avenue in Amherst? There's no stop signs there. The school's there too, on that side of the school. So if you're doing it for school safety,
Well, we do have answers for that.
okay,
And it was a safe school, safe routes to school program. And just to give you a little history, and for the public here that might have other questions, the history of the program started 4.5 years ago, when the federal government approached the city of Margate and said they wanted to do a study with the changes in the, you know, when the state legislature in 2010 changed the law for pedestrian crossings where cars had to stop where the cross keys were, as long as it wasn't a signalized intersection, you had to stop and let the people go. So they came into town to do an assessment of the whole town. A road diet, which was requested on Atlantic Avenue, was a part of the plan. They looked at the whole town. Urban engineers, under a contract from the federal government, came and did a whole assessment. What happens is distance plays a part. The distance at the Huntington Avenue intersection is roughly 120, 130 foot from curb to curb as it previously existed. where at Essex Avenue, it's a normal 30-foot cartway or 35-foot cartway. It gives people enough time, or children, with a safety to cross the street before an instance could possibly happen. Where you have a 5-point intersection and you have 120 foot to go, whether you're on a bike or on foot, especially with children, it takes a lot more time to go and it puts them more in danger. So that wasn't part of the scope of the project. The scope of the project was concerned with bike paths, and we do have a creation of a bike path on both Winchester Avenue and Monmouth Avenue now. They're just finishing up the signage where cars have to be aware they have to share, what's it called?
There's sharrows.
There's sharrows on the bituminous blacktop, and there's signs on every street end that basically say share the road with bikes. So that was all part of this program, to redefine major intersections that weren't legal by state and federal law. So tickets couldn't be issued for people going through stop signs such as Huntington Avenue and other places, because there has to be set distances.
But I'm talking about the school, near the schools, so I call it Granville Avenue, because that's right. Is it Ross School?
Yes,
Okay, so there's stop signs, okay?
yes.
Okay, why wouldn't there be a stop sign on Amherst Avenue near Thai School?
It wasn't a part of this job.
But I'm just asking you in general for safety of our schools, if that's the goal of,
We can look at it, but
Okay.
this contract designated this area, and again, it was at what, 300 and 400?
371,000 grand.
Right.
Hey, we'll look at that in the future. This, as we said, this contract was limited to
Yeah,
what the study.
okay.
But it's going to be a work in progress, and we're going to
Okay.
revisit certain
Okay,
things.
because I think that no left at that stop sign, I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me.
We can look at it. So if
Okay.
I'll just add to some of Commissioner Amadeo's comments. I understand what you mean. Essentially, there's a stop and then a stop, and it sounds like maybe that's first stop with the no left. Someone could construe that to mean you can't go left on Amherst.
Right, because there's a little,
I understand.
between the small division and the other median, there's like a roadway.
Right. So
But
it's-
you're going on to Gladstone Avenue anyway, if you're gonna make that left, and it's one way.
There may not be a better way to do it, but we can look at it. And Miss, did I talk to you about the lighting at that intersection?
you did.
So I just want you to know, after I did speak with her regarding the lighting or lack thereof at that intersection. After speaking with her, I reached out to, we actually went out at night, we took a look. There's one light that's kind of petering out. There's another light that's working okay, and then there's a pole near this intersection that doesn't have a street light on it. So what I did was I sent an email over to Bill Edwards, who is the Atlantic City Electric street lighting person, asked him to repair that light that's not working properly, and I asked him for a price to install an additional street light at that intersection directed towards this new traffic pattern to better illuminate that entire intersection.
Thank you.
So I haven't gotten anything back yet, but I haven't gotten anything back yet, but once I do, I'll send it along.
Okay, thank you.
Your 3 minutes are up.
There's another one.
All right, my problem is with the same.
Name and address.
Carol Silverman, 75 Seaside Court. My issue basically is about all these new traffic patterns also. If you wanted it to be safer, I'd have to say that the first day, I've seen somebody going the wrong way down Huntington, where they're supposed to turn off and go around in circles. They didn't do it. So that's one problem. The second problem I see is at Fulton and that intersection, Fulton, where Seaside Court comes in, Huntington, that intersection, you've put in this whole circle thing. Well, when it's dark at night and raining, you could really wind up with the problem, because nobody's going to see all those yellow lines on the street. They're not going to see anything that's supposed to happen there, and you could have a huge accident. As far as I'm concerned, there was a lot of work done to create something that could have been fixed with some stop signs and a traffic bump. To slow people down on Amherst, you need a traffic bump. Because, yes, around the school, there should be a traffic bump, and around the JCC, why not put in a traffic bump where people walk across the street? And you've got all these elderly people who walk very slowly, and, I think someday someone's going to get hit. And the last thing I would like to mention is that since I'm close to the school and I live in the neighborhood where there's a lot of kids, If you're really concerned about the safety of kids, someone should stand outside one day and send every kid home who's not wearing a helmet. Because I will tell you, probably 80% of those kids riding their bikes to school are not wearing helmets. Whether they take them off, their parents think they're wearing them, and then they take them and put them back as soon as they turn their heads. I don't really know, because I don't think many parents really want their kids out without helmets. But that really bothers me, because I know that that's, basically a fatal thing, if they fall down and hit their head.
We'll look at all of them, Mrs. Silver, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Actually, I didn't come here for this, but since it was mentioned, my name's Bill Hanrahan on Gladstone Avenue. The bulkhead being built along Amherst Avenue, is it going right past Washington Avenue to where Ray Scott's is? Where's it going to?
It's 570 foot between the two bulkheads that
They've
have
already
been
been
completed.
constructed?
Yes.
Okay, so the part where it really needs to be upgraded at Washington Avenue will stay like that?
For now. Well, for now, I
Yeah.
mean, it's a work in progress.
Okay, no, because that's probably the lowest point in the bulkhead on the whole bay.
The other spots are failing.
I understand that,
Yeah,
but
we had
if
the
the
street
water's,
caving in, yeah.
if the water's gonna come in, that's where it's coming in, over the bulkhead.
Bill, we
That's
get
the
that
point.
part. We get it.
I know, I was just curious, and I'm not upset about it, I thought, oh, good, that part's gonna get fixed, because that's probably the worst section of the bulkhead as far as height goes.
We try to do this in the most efficient manner.
Yeah.
And those two other sections were done at no cost to the city, so we're gonna fill that part in, and we'll, get to that at some point, whatever we can afford in our capital budgets.
One other question, and when all this is done, there's a section where Longport has, well, theirs is all over the place, but where they raised it, where the condos are to the Margate border, that's kind of low there. Do you know if they have any plans for doing anything with that?
I really don't know.
Okay.
I'll find out for you, okay?
Yeah, just out of curiosity,
No
because,
problem.
I mean, that's probably, as we all well know, that's our most vulnerable area is the Back Bay.
Bingo.
Yeah, so, all right, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
My name's Barry Sherman. I live at 9510 Amherst Avenue. I just needed clarification. From what I gathered, that the bulkhead project is going to start before the new year and will be completed by Memorial Day, is that correct?
That is the schedule.
And is there going to be additional lighting put in?
Was there lighting?
Because there is no lights on the bay side, as it hasn't been for over a year.
That's with the Promenade project, right?
Yeah.
That's part of the project?
Part of the next
We're hoping the following year. we
To do the
can
promenade.
promenade.
Okay,
and
so there
restore
will
the
be no
park.
lighting after the bulkhead is completed still? Is that correct?
True.
That's 2 years without lights.
No, I understand.
The other thing is, you were talking about if you get damage from the pile driving, you said that you should take the information from the contractor, both the pile driving contractor and the general contractor. What do I do with that information once I get it? Nobody said that.
Get a copy of their insurance.
I'd ask them for the copy. And if I don't, and if they refuse to give it to me for some reason, what do? Come to you guys?
Yeah.
That's on record here anyway, right?
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any other comment?
Yeah, we have it.
Carol Weaver, 12 Edgemar Circle, to the solicitor. You piqued my interest in a particular.
Ask the mayor, please, and then he'll tell me.
Well, no, you had made a statement about some email you received from somebody about a flooded property, and
Yeah.
I'm just
Mrs. Weaver,
curious about
Ms.
that.
Weaver,
Deal with
the proper process is to direct it through the mayor.
Okay.
He'll be able to hear.
But I
All
can
right,
hear you.
as a result of what he said,
No, I
I'm
hear you.
interested in how the city took the position that they won't have a position with a homeowner who finds themselves underwater because their neighbor built their property probably 6, 7 inches above grade, and then they have runoff from their cement and that type of thing, and suddenly they're underwater. And his position is it was probably underwater to begin with. And I find that interesting. It's not, I'm just saying, it just seemed like a very strange position to take. I mean, I would think during construction and then after, when code enforcement or whatever comes in, checks things out, that those things are noted. And of course, in time, whether you have a bad storm come along or something like that where you're flooded out, new homes may not be affected as much as older homes that are still where they were traditionally, and now newer homes are built up. But a lot of times these builders, they build 6-7 inches above grade to their neighbors. Then they put in their driveways and everything else, even landscaping, and you can look out and you can see that much difference between your property and their property. And then when there's a bad storm, you have major runoff on your property. So, I mean, that's just a statement about it.
Okay.
Okay?
Roger can answer that.
Roger, just Ms.
Real
Weaver.
quick.
Wait, don't go away yet.
Don't go away.
Come back.
Come back.
First, you didn't want to talk to me, and then.
Oh, I did want to talk to you, but the proper
Well, I
protocol
have
is
to, I mean, the direction.
Look,
It's just-
that's how.
Ms. Weaver,
Hey, look, I'll
Mr.
talk to you.
McLaren is
You want to talk to me?
Bless you.
Okay,
Absolutely.
we'll talk.
Love to talk to you.
Actually, the property that Scott was mentioning, the solicitor was mentioning, it wasn't a new property, it was 2 existing properties. The people next door, they took their their patio out, they put grass down, and this problem existed for years and years and years, and then the guy who was complaining, he tried to blame the neighbor on something they did not do. So, just to clarify.
I understand that, because I
But I
listened
understand
to
what
the
you're talking about.
audio, and I heard that guy come in and talk about this,
Right.
and I knew where that email was probably generated from. And it has nothing to do with those people, I don't know them. I'm just saying in general, given the fact that Margate is going through a transition,
It is, and we're trying to help these people,
And,
but
you
there's
know-
only a limit. Do you really want your tax dollars to go and fix pre-existing conditions? It's been that way for years
On private
and
property.
I
years.
understand that, but
We can't do it.
But Mrs.
water
Weaver
is a
was saying-
problem in Margate, and runoff is a problem in Margate. And when
Well, it
people
is.
build and they build their properties up, they can create problems for their
I
neighbors
agree
with
on
that
that.
buildup. And I'm not talking about a pre-existing condition, I'm talking about something that comes as a result of new construction.
Right, and to piggyback onto that, I know I've talking to the administrator and the mayor and commissioners about that, is developing an ordinance in town where if somebody changes the grade of the property, they need a grading plan review, be approved, to prevent that.
But
from
up until
happening.
this point, that really isn't done, is it?
It hasn't been done, no, so.
And there isn't an ordinance right now for that.
No, but we tried, Jimmy and I tried to catch it on the site where the builders will redirect all their downspouts to the front of the property, which goes to the street.
To the
So-
stormwater system is
Right.
what we're trying to get it to go to.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thank
that's
you.
good. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tim Friel, 62 Seaside Court. I'm not here, this is the only council meeting I've ever been to, except for a joyous one. Everybody here does a great job. I only live in Margate because it's a great town. It's fiscal responsibility, great education, great public safety, and Chief, congratulations and good health.
Is there a
That's
butt
number one.
coming here too?
No, well.
All right, brace yourself. Here it comes.
The school travel plan, I'm not here to complain about it, because I certainly don't know enough about it, and I don't know the history of it. I'm just here to share my personal feelings, my personal concerns, my observations as a person, as a father, and as a 30-year law enforcement officer. I'll start with Gladstone Avenue, and I'll segue off of the lady who was speaking about that. To me, that there, I know we're trying to make things better, and the paramount thing is child safety going to and from school, which is the nexus for this, which is the impetus for this. I concur with that, and it's very, very important. But Gladstone Avenue, to me, is a total waste of money. There's not a problem there. Why spend money on fixing it? All it does, as the lady said, and not just for her senior mother and her aides, it creates confusion. And it limits public safety access to those streets down there. I'll move over to Huntington and Fulton Avenue. And I shake my head at that one. I go past there every day, at least once or twice a day. The county, the state, the township of Egg Harbor Township has spent millions and millions and millions of dollars to get rid of the Cardiff Circle and to get rid of the Airport Circle, where nothing but headaches. And we are going to take it upon ourselves to put in a circle to create confusion, to create problems. I'll move up now to Amherst and Huntington Avenue. There was no problems there. I only perused this quickly, and I look at the public safety side of it, and something that stood out to me was one personal injury and 3 bicycle accidents over I don't know how many years. And Chief, I don't know whether you had the stats or not, but the intersection of Huntington and Amherst, I've been told from former law enforcement that over the past 20 years, there may have been 2 reported accidents there. Is that correct? Or
Very minimal.
very minimal, okay. Again, if it's not broken, don't fix it and don't cause confusion. How does a fire truck get down that street, Chief, coming up Amherst Avenue without having to slow down? Does it?
We actually,
Without taking the island out? I've hit the island 3 times.
do you want me to answer?
I know my time's
Your
up.
time's up. He'll answer now. We'll take your time.
We
Can
actually
I have a
went-
chance for closing comment?
During the construction, we actually went out there and we tried to gain access through every point in every way possible. And the driver and operator that was there and operating that day made each area successfully through without any problems.
That's without the adrenaline flowing, Chief, as you know, without the hurry up, without maybe it's a friend or a neighbor that's back there.
I rode in the fire truck. All the drills. We did every intersection twice in each direction. There was never an issue.
Perfect circumstances though, John. You know, come on.
And you don't think they'll get to the fire?
Maybe not as safely and in a timely fashion as they could have in the past when there was no problems there. And John, I know you have the numbers on the stop signs, and I don't know where they filter in. And I know you've been lectured on it several times about the number of stop signs, state and federal regulations. And all of us sitting here, I know we've all passed those streets, and I know I can call each of you a liar if you can sit here today and tell me that you're not shaking your heads and saying, wow, this has created confusion. And to me, and the idea is safe routes with bicycles. How many bicycles go up Amherst Avenue? What about other areas? I'm frustrated. Again, I close by saying you guys have done a great job. There may be one person in this room that's happy about it, who complains all the time. But if you ask the other 6,003 people, they're confused.
Your time's up. Thank you, Tim, for your comments.
Mayor, can I comment on just something, because I hear this all over town.
Yes, you
I'd
may.
like to make a comment.
You may.
Tim, you're right. I mean, it's something to get used to. But here's federal money that comes in applying standards of safety for children. We are notified that we don't comply with these intersections. Am I wrong, John? We don't comply. Now, what happens if Margate says, we don't want to follow these recommendations that have been set by safety standard boards nationwide, federal, and somebody's kid gets killed at that intersection, and we didn't implement those changes after they told us to? Now, I agree, it's mass confusion right now, and it's going to take a while to get used to, and it may be modified. I don't think anybody's closed to that idea that maybe it doesn't quite work, but we can't ignore it. We can't ignore it.
Scott,
Some kid gets hurt, Tim, you know.
Oh, I get it.
The liability on the city is
Tim, let him-
enormous.
You let the solicitor speak, please.
But and that's my point. And you're right, everybody's upset, gotta get used to something, and hopefully we'll be able to get used to it. But there's this perception, oh, you can't get a fire truck down. I heard 6 people tell me that. They tested it and could get the fire truck. That's not true. I'm not, look, I know it's gonna be tough to get used to, and maybe it's gonna be modified, but you gotta be a little bit patient with us. Try to be patient with us.
I am very patient.
And I think you are very patient. I know you pretty well, you are.
They may not. Next meeting you can.
Oh,
This young lady wants to speak.
Thank you for that.
Name and address, please.
Yeah, Mona Marcus, Coolidge Avenue. When the lady said that somebody senior was crossing the street slowly in front of the JCC, I think she was talking about me. But I have a question about, just a quick question about the playground and the equipment and the rubber thing. Where is that happening?
By the pavilion.
Pavilion.
So it's it's the library playground?
Right.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay.
That was just a question. And that's gonna be done when?
Hopefully just after the new year.
Okay. And while you're all congratulating yourselves about what a great job you do, he really does do a great job.
Is that your cousin, Andrew?
Mayor, my wife says I have a split personality when I come up.
You're done, Tim. You're done, Tim. Any other public comment, please? No, next meeting, Mr. Huh?
When you
What?
open,
Well, at the
on the
beginning.
regular?
Yeah.
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mayor Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo.
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg.
Yes.
Okay.